All right, well, let's do this now, guys. We're going to segue right into the Intel portion of the call now. So let's first of all re-welcome everybody to the big call. Let's thank everybody that's tuned in around the world. I'd like to acknowledge the fact that we have listenership from not just the U.S. and Canada, our neighbor to the north, but also certain people are listening from Central America and Mexico, and also down in South America. We know we have Maria down in Buenos Aires. Wouldn't even have a call tonight. As you know, we're just on a day-by-day basis right now, so expectant, knowing that we are basically toward the very end of this ride. There always seems to be something that crops up that does appear to be new, as is the case today, and I'll explain what that is. But it's also important to realize that this whole process has begun. We are in the process now. Let's not forget that. Let's not lose the fact that the global reset of currencies in 209 countries around the world has begun. We are in that process. We have it underway, and we know that a lot of the groups, we had the tier 1s, those are the sovereign countries, tier 2s, or VIPs, and other dignitaries, let's call it. Those guys have gone through, and tier 3s, my understanding is, either they're almost finished or have finished. We can't quite get confirmation on that yet. And then we have the core groups that are about to be paid, and then so on and so forth. There's a number of subgroups that are also in process. And then there's us as tier 4. We are the largest group other than the group that we call the John Q. Public. The John Q. Public would be people that are not necessarily paying direct attention to this, that are just, that were gifted some currency, or that maybe they purchased something 10 or 12 years ago and they've lost interest, or they may just have dropped out of paying attention. They're just out there, and there's a large group of those people. The group that we address on the big call is a group that numbers about 5 million, and it, I believe, is growing daily. I don't think it's shrinking. This is a group that we call the Internet group. These are people that are somewhat paying attention to calls like the big call, that may be reading blog sites and are aware through the internet what is going on to some extent. Now, I realize that the way I run a call and the information that I put out may be different than what other people are getting or other people are hearing. I assure you that my sources are my own. I don't get any information from any of the other calls like TNT or anything else. Just so that you guys know, I'm not in that situation where we fortunately have sources that are getting direct information from Iraq and other parts of the world, and so we do not piggyback on anybody else's intel, just so you know, okay, in case you're wondering about that. But the most important thing to realize is that we are in this process now. It is coming to the point where our group, which we know as Tier 4, T-I-E-R, Tier 4, as the Internet group, is about to be notified. We know that that notification should be coming by a toll-free number, and we know that, yes, I have been honored and selected to be one to receive that. I don't know if I'm the only one. I don't know that. I've been told I am. I've been told there may be others. But whatever it is, all I can say is, to me, it's an honor to have been chosen to credit's trade situation, where the dinar would have a certain value and would have a certain value for us, the United States, to utilize in the exchange for the purchase of oil. And then, of course, we as the U.S. Treasury did invest heavily in Iraq, obviously, in terms of the war effort, and also in terms of just being there to sort of help the country get itself back in sovereign status and so on and so forth through the UN. Now, without going deeply into that whole scenario, because it's been so long, I've probably forgotten most of the details about it. But the point about this is the oil, it's always been sort of, with regards to Iraq, been sort of about the oil. The oil seems to have been the main thing that's backed the value of the currency. Now, since that time, we know that gold and other precious gems and minerals are abundant throughout the Middle East, including Iraq. And we know that that gives incredible value to their currency. But the oil initially was what was backing the value of the dinar. And we know that the dinar had a value of approximately $3.22 back when oil was about $18 a barrel. And then, of course, we came in, did what we did. The value of the dinar was crashed. And then, of course, we have the value going up from 4,000 dinar to the dollar all the way up to 1166 or 1130 something. And then we have the fact that the dinar has value in country, which is much more in line with the US dollar, and in fact higher already than the dollar in country. Now, so what we are waiting for is for that currency to be known about and back as an internationally tradable currency, thus making the sovereign country of Iraq a player on the world stage as far as trade. And of course, we've been looking for that type of an announcement for years, but we know that it has never been made significantly to where that announcement is known about in the United States as well as most of the world. We also know that through people that are transacting using the key cards, those prepaid debit cards from Iraq, that they do have a value on those cards relative to the US dollar that is much higher than the US dollar, like at least 4 or 5 times higher already in country. But we also know that that continues to go up, and the value of the currency has gone up, just like the ZIM, just like the Dong, over the last number of months and days. We sort of have been able to track the value relative to platform values and so on the ZIM, but we haven't had anything recent on the dinar for a while. We know roughly, but we don't know really exactly where it is right now. But that's okay. What it amounts to is Iraq has been doing some things like shipping oil due to an arrangement that they have through OPEC to be able to ship sort of an unlimited amount of oil over 90 days. And that started, without ramifications by OPEC. That started about a week ago, as I remember. I may be off a little bit, but approximately a week, I'm going to say a week to 10 days ago, that agreement was reached. And Iraq is thinking, man, we are going to pump like crazy and get out as much oil as we can, outside of the auspices of OPEC, so that we can increase our liquidity and that we can essentially be stronger and stronger in terms of who we are to build our credit rating and so on, as a world financial power. So they have been doing that. Now, what does all this mean? The tankers that carry this oil, as you guys know, we thank you to President Trump for bowing out on the climate accord, the Paris Climate Accord. He and Russia and China all are out of that particular agreement, at least that agreement that was made. Now, one thing that's interesting about that is that all three nations, the U.S., China, and Russia, are taking deliveries now of Iraqi oil. And we took some deliveries last night. I don't know what the schedule is for remaining, but I know we have 3 of 8 tankers that have already arrived to the U.S. for crude oil out of Iraq. Now, how do we do that without knowing what is the rate for that commodity? How do we pay for that? That's what's setting up our oil for credits agreement that we made years and years ago. This is the first fruits of that, if you will, of that agreement coming through, not just for the U.S., but also for Russia and also for China. So the fact that that's moving, oil is moving, and I've got some numbers on quantities. I'll just tell you that we understand that over the next 36 to 48 hours, between those 3 countries, we should receive deliveries of over 200 million barrels of oil in that period of time. That's a lot. That's a lot. We've got some on the water coming, and I'm sure that's the case with China and also with Russia. Now, what is significant about this is that because that oil is moving and being received, that sets it up where now they can establish a rate for the dinar. We can establish from that a privately negotiable rate for the dinar for us as part of the internet group, which should be significantly higher than it was when we knew about it a week or 2 ago. And it also allows for a new official rate to be established and published on the Central Bank of Iraq website, the CBI. Now, in addition to that, we do know that the map of Mosul, which was to show the liberated aspects of that city, was to be shown this morning, was to be made available. It was not made available this morning, but we understand that it is intended for that to occur tomorrow. That tomorrow that could be seen, and that would reveal essentially the fact that Iraq has taken back Mosul, that they are liberated, and that of course they're also liberated from Chapter 7 from the United Nations, which occurred last Friday. It'll be a week tomorrow for that to have occurred. So what is important there is that the map that would show the liberation of Mosul may also be included with information about the new value of the Iraqi dinar, may also include the budget for Iraq, may also include language about the sovereignty of Iraq, and so on. It could be a complete reveal that we have not had yet that we're looking for. And maybe that will occur in the morning with that map of Mosul that was held back. Hopefully it will reveal tomorrow. Now, when we take that information and we combine it with what else we're hearing, it makes us look like we're in a very, very good place right now. We are in a very good, we're going to call it, we are in a very, I'm trying to think of the wording right here now, I'm trying to remember the wording, but we are in a very good place for currency holders to begin to do their exchanges. We've heard from various banks that we are really in the place to go next, that the floodgates are about to open for currency exchangers, not just in Europe or the UK, but also for us. We also have a tendency to believe in the concept of a shotgun start. By that, that means that all parties would be funded and have access to funds at approximately the same time. The groups that have exchanged already, that have safekeeping receipts, should be able to have access to those funds or be liquid at approximately the same time. We had heard last night that that might be the case even last night, and that our toll-free numbers were about to be delivered in a matter of hours. Now, we did not get that throughput in that area, but we have heard today that continued things have gone through that make it look like we are just about ready for those things to occur. The groups, the ones that have already essentially transacted and can see their money in their account but can't have access to it yet, maybe they have a pending status, maybe they don't even have their funds showing in their account yet. All the groups, the core groups, the other groups, and so on, other than us, are going to be in the situation, in my opinion, of being made liquid at approximately the same time. Okay, now, let's see where else we can go with this. So, I am not trying to call it, believe it or not, I'm not trying to say that it's happening at exactly a certain time on a certain date. It's just suicide to try to do that because of the changes that are continually changing. Like this whole thing about oil today, we didn't even know about that till this afternoon. And I find it to be a very important piece of the puzzle because it answers some questions that we didn't even know existed. Now, the other thing is, let's see, what can I say to that? We do know that some people have completed in Tier 3, for example, their exchanges and are waiting for their funds to become liquid. We know of people that have appointments tomorrow, late morning, for example, with the bank so that they can obtain that liquidity. My point is, if that's the case, and that everybody's supposed to go at approximately the same time, maybe we're almost to the end of the ride. We know the elders, the royals, have begun to pull down their funds. We know that bond transactions are in place, ready to pay out. But we also understand that the currency transactions, that's us, the currency exchangers, are to go first to provide the liquidity for the bonds to be transferred, for the bonds to be paid out. So it's almost as if we have to go first before those are transacted. And we know that they are planned to go, shortly after we begin our exchanges. There's just a lot of parts to this, guys. There's a lot of moving parts. Just trust me when I say that we are in the process now with with either all of the groups, except maybe the core groups, complete, and then we go. We understand that that occurs once the core groups have received their funds. We are waiting for that portion of this process to complete. That's pretty much where we are. Now, I'm excited about the possibility of an announcement that may come tomorrow from our president that was originally intended, I understand, for today. Didn't happen. Some things in his schedule were pushed. As you guys know, there was a meeting that was to occur yesterday and a discussion about apprenticeships through business in a private public partnership that got pushed to today, and I caught that this morning. It was very encouraging, and I'm very proud that the president is taking apprenticeships in that direction, because as you remember, that is part of our program with Rebuild America, because we want to work in cities and in parts of this country where we need to educate and have apprenticeships available for people to learn various trades. I talked about electricians, I talked about welders, I talked about plumbers, I talked about other things that are important in the rebuilding, other positions that will be needed to be filled in the rebuilding of America's infrastructure. And that's a lot of what I asked the administration to be aware of, that we were available to help in the purchase of bonds that might be available so that those funds could be used to fund the rebuilding of infrastructure throughout the country. And I think that was heard, and I believe that is something that we can feel part of. That we maybe in some small way, we did something to encourage the administration to go in that direction. I hope so. But the other thing was the apprenticeship discussion today was wonderful. And I look forward to being part of that as part of the private sector and working with corporations that are working directly with corporations that need employees to learn these jobs that are good paying jobs. The job that was cited today was talking about starting at around $60,000 per year. And I'm sure some would be in that range and some would be higher. And I think we can do a lot to create those jobs and be part of those apprenticeship programs where you learn and you earn as you learn. You get paid as you're learning a skill. And I don't know how long those apprenticeships would go, but I think that we would be involved in that and use that as something that's a core belief, if you will, of the Rebuild America program as we adopt a city, adopt a town, adopt a community all over this country. I'm looking for 5,000 Big Call listeners to be part of this. I have a feeling we're going to get a lot more than that, because it's a worthwhile program that we will be able to invest in, especially if those bonds that will be used to fund infrastructure are available to us to purchase with funds, let's say, that we make with the interest that we earn on our structured payouts, for example. And by the way, the structured payout is a choice that you have. You don't have to go that route if you want to deal with your own investments. You don't have to be involved in a structured payout. I tend to like the concept of it because I get a guaranteed rate of return through the bank, and I don't have to mess with thinking about investments or doing that part of it. I can just work on other things like these humanitarian projects that I want to be involved with, knowing that every quarter I have a certain amount that's coming in that I need to put to work. Purchasing these bonds, using them for humanitarian purposes. I mean, guys, we're talking about making a major, major difference, not just in the United States and Canada and Mexico and the Central America nations, but also around other parts of the world. So I just wanted to say that I'm hoping to see more from the administration regarding this, and I'm hoping also to see more in terms of an announcement, possibly tomorrow, from the president. All right, now, let's see if there's anything else. From an Intel perspective, guys, I can't tell you, but I know that all the paymasters are liquid. All the funds have moved into place. It's kind of like the stage is set. The actors are in place. And all we're waiting for is for the curtain to go up. And I feel like that is really the best place that we've ever been in right now. We're about to see the curtain lifted. And our play is about to begin. So unless I think of something else, because I know there's more probably that I can bring, I'll try to bring it later if I